Well, let's look at the four models of event handlers. A little bit of this is review in case you haven't kind of put it together. This does. These are roughly chronologically how they've come into being. They're classified generally into four different buckets. We've got the inline, very early usage of inline event handlers. We've got the traditional one, the W3C standards one, and Microsoft did their own thing for a while. Notice the references at the bottom of these slides if you want to dig into this a bit more. They did a really good job of classifying these. If you look at the inline event handlers, it is, just like it says, it's inline with HTML. There's no separation between the content and the JavaScript. It's ancient and reliable, but when you mix your JavaScript code or even your CSS code with your HTML structure layer, it becomes messy really fast. Works really well, really dependably, but it has lots of drawbacks. One of which you can't assign more than one event to an element. So next up, we have the traditional way of doing it. You take an element that you identify through a DOM call and document object model you're familiar with. You assign it a method for the event, and off you go. To remove an event handler, you just say null. You assign null to the event. And just remember, don't use parentheses when you're assigning. Remember, we're using the assignment statement, the equals here. So don't use parentheses when you're assigning a method to an event. So otherwise, the function would be executed and its result would be registered to onClick. And it's not what we want. We want the function to be executed when the event takes place. In addition, the function has usually been written to expect an event, and if we'd execute it without any such context, it gets all confused and produces errors. Not what we want. So instead, we copy the function, we assign the function to the event handler in its entirety. We don't execute it yet, which is what the parentheses means. That should only happen when the event actually takes place. So we have inline, we have traditional, and we have the W3C standards. Unfortunately, when the W3 standards were being developed, Microsoft did their own thing for a while. As of Internet Explorer 9, Microsoft finally adopted the W3C standard, but if your target audience uses any version of IE less than 9, you're screwed. So it's less useful than you might think, but any technology, like all the Adobe products that use JavaScript as a base for their scripting, this works really well. So the key to the W3C event registration model is the method addEventListener, and you give it 3 arguments: the event type. Notice it doesn't usually have the on designation, like instead of onClick, it's just click. The function to be executed, and a Boolean. The Boolean, if you remember, has to do with the bubbling of the event through the DOM. And the beauty of this model is we can add as many event listeners as we want, we can remove event listeners, and we can use anonymous functions in this model. So if you remember the anonymous function, you can stick it right in there instead of a function call. So if you use true or false in that last argument, it's meant to state whether the event handler should be executed in capturing or in the bubbling phase. If you're not certain which one you want, use false, which is bubbling, which is very traditional. Now Microsoft went off and did their own thing, very similar. It doesn't honor any capturing or bubbling phase. It's all during bubbling. But it's attach event instead of add event listener, and it's detach event instead of remove event listener. The big problem we have is the DOM doesn't recognize that this keyword as belonging to the object. It always refers to the window, so it's really completely useless. So we have problems working with this model in IE less than 9. The cool thing is jQuery kind of saves us on all these fronts. It takes care of all the cross-browser messiness, and I am looking forward to digging in. Let's go.